Here we are again, 2, 3, 4 on the big green amp. I want to get this bugger sorted. So you can see the 5881s. This one is the dodgy one. My good friend Ian has loaned me a couple of 5881s, same things, to get rid of that. And so after doing some listening tests and some frequency testing the other day, these are the results. One of the channels has got a really nasty hum, so there's something wrong there, and I don't think it's that dodgy valve. The other thing is that without the two controls in the circuit and the buffer and all that, the amplifier open loop frequency response isn't too bad. It's quite good. However, with the tone controls supposedly switched out of the circuit and the input coming from here and through the tone controls into the valve amplifier, the frequency response isn't as good, and there is a bit of a boost. Is about a 1 dB boost at low frequencies. So lying in bed the other morning thinking about this at God knows what hours in the morning, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning for some reason, or it might have been on a push bike while I was going into town, you know how you do. I was thinking, right, well, this McGubbins here, these two Veriboard whatever circuit boards, it's a bit of an abortion. It's just, it works, but if I intend to sell this amp, which I probably will do, it's not good. So what can I do? I can either get rid of the tone controls altogether, which will mean making another front panel, which is, yes, more work, but or I can try and build this better. But will that solve our problem? We've essentially got two building blocks. We've got the valve amplifier, and then we've got this tone control on the front end, as it were. I prefer the whole to behave properly, but I don't know, it's just more freaking work. I've messed about with this amplifier for quite a long time, so I'm going to have to give myself a serious talking to and do some serious thinking about this to try and get this amp in a bit more of a orderly order, as it were. I'm gonna do some wiring loom lacing across there just to tidy that up, and then that will let me lift this little power supply up so that I can get me probe properly onto the cathode of this valve here. Right, that's better. This power supply is higher up, so before I was having difficulty getting onto this cathode here, and so now I just need to sort those sort of two resistors, move them about a bit so that I can get to that without shorting out the cathode and the heaters with me probe when I go probing. You don't want to short anything out when you go probing. Shout out to Blind Keith, thanks for subbing, although I try to discourage what do they call it, subscribing. But yeah, hopefully soon, Keith, me old duck, we should have a valve guitar amplifier build. That's one that I want to do in the future, so anyway, keep on watching, as they say. I'm starting a new board for the tone controls of the big green amp, and I've marked out all the holes where we need to go through, drilled them using this little hobby drill, mini crash hobby drill, and hold on, I'll tell you what size they are. UK drills, 1mm. one thing I've found drilling this FR4 copper clad board is, I mean, it drills through the copper quite easily, but as soon as, yeah, drilling through the actual fiberglass stuff, obviously because it's like fucking part glass, blunts the drill in no time at all. And I've tried to sharpen these in the past, but it's, Jesus Christ, it's hard. And before I obviously drill, I do some sort of plans. I look at the schematic, try a few things. So this was my original one. It's all just on paper. I prefer paper. I'm a bit old fashioned. So originally I think, yes, the input side of things was going to be over here, and then the output side of things was going to be over here. But then I started thinking, when you're drawing out like a PCB layout, it's very easy to just follow the schematic and just sort of go from left to right. But to get the best layout, you have to often like do some mental gymnastics and think, well, layout wise, what is the best? And so I flipped it, and as you can see, hopefully on here, and having sort of consulted the BGA, we've got our inputs coming from this side, we've got a power supply coming from this side, and this is the left and right of the amplifier, and that's just there just to keep me coordinated, as it were. Usually I would chop this off before laying it all out, but I wanted to leave myself plenty of room. So now, using this engraving bit, I need to cut out the tracks. This is the tricky bit, because obviously, you know, we've only got, I think it is about 2 or 3 mil in between these traces. To get in between them is tricky. It can be done though, and as you can see, some of the holes are a bit misplaced, but you get that, so nothing you can do. It's annoying, but I mean, I measured them really accurately and everything using digital calipers and all the rest of it, but it is what it is. So I need to cut out the traces for this sort of side of the thing using this guide, and then after that I will lay out the output side of the things using this like as a guide, as it were. Got a little more forward on the circuit board for the tone controls, which will replace the Vera board setup that I've got at the moment, and I made a few improvements. This is a rough sort of thing I did. That's where I started. So that's basically the input sort of buffer with a little bit of gain. I think it's got a gain of 2. This is like our actual tone section here. These circles, these purpley circles, go to the various pots and all the rest of it. And yeah, same there. And then that goes out to a buffer. And the last time I just did the buffer and it was pretty similar. However, I didn't have like a series resistor here, which I put in, and I put a series resistor there and a couple of caps, because this, as it is at the moment, it has a bit of a boop when you turn it off, and so that those decoupling caps there should stop that. I was going to put like a little relay in there, but caps is an easier way to do it. So that's the circuit, and then you have to sort of try and fit it. The reality is you have to try and fit it all on there. So we've got, where are we? One up amp there, one up amp there, one up amp there. And then now I've got to do all, you know, cut all the tracks and everything, connect the power supply up and all the rest of it. But that's most of the holes drilled. The only sort of holes I haven't drilled are the output, because it needs like a resistor to ground, and I think I may have got my spacings wrong here, and it could probably better, so that's probably a bit of another balls up on my part. Also, a problem I've got is, I mean, this is a really sort of crap. It is pretty crap. I mean, I lost the springs out of the chuck, so I've just got some bits of foam in there. So sometimes it doesn't run concentric, and these tips that I'm using, they're like got diamonds in, but they're not very sharp. I mean, they've seen better days, and unfortunately I've not been able to find anything similar since. And so I just tried to sharpen them, but obviously I've been sort of having diamond encrusted in them, like they're a bit of a swine to sharpen. So it's just, we just have to do the best I can with it. God, Jesus, it's so cold today. It's so debilitating. I've got t-shirt, thick shirt and 2 jumpers on, and I'm still cold. And every day has been like this for about a week. Can't afford heating on all day, every day, so you just have to keep moving about best you can and put up with a bugger. Anyway, pulled all the components off those Refurb versions that I did before. It's a waste, very big waste of time and effort and all the rest of it, but never mind. I want to try to use as many of these components as I can. Hate waste. I haven't got money to chuck about anyway, and so what I'm going to do, I'm going to start at the input, work my way through and check the circuit and see if I've screwed up along the way, and hopefully when I get to the other end I'll have a better idea of yeah, if it's going to work or not. Well, I finished populating the new tone control board. I'm a lot happier with this sort of setup than the Refurb board, sort of McGubbins that I had before. So I've gone through it with my digital multimeter, testing out resistances to ground between pins, making sure I've got no shorts and all that sort of thing. That's the underneath. There's just a couple of surface mount, as it were, resistors to ground, and that's on the final buffer stage. Unlike the previous buffer stage, I've got a couple of decoupling caps. I hope I've got them the right way round. Before I actually put any op amps in there and killed them accidentally, I'm going to connect it up to me DIY split rail power supply, plus minus 15 volts, and just to make sure that there's something I haven't overlooked. Then we'll bung the op amps in and give it a test. The original design called for 5532s. I'm using TL072s. That one checked out, that one checked out. I'm going to point you at the right, I can hear something getting warm. Come on, you bastard. I don't want to fuck my fucking thing up. Right, hopefully you can see that. Getting 13 volts there and 13 volts there. There shouldn't be, and I can feel that getting warm. So that is fucked. I don't know quite how that has happened. However, when I had the previous Refurb board set up in the amplifier, one channel was really noisy. It was still functioning as an amplifier, but one channel was really noisy. Could it be that that op amp has been killed at some point in the past? More than probable. My experience with using op amps and, you know, transistors in general has been that one mistake and you can kill them. Right, here we all are again. So now, having built and tested this tone control as much as I can, I have to connect that into there. The original, this is based, as I probably mentioned, multiple times on a Rod Elliott hi-fi preamplifier. I can't remember what it is. I think it's Project 06, could be wrong there, or it could be 96. Anyway, I've adapted it. It's not as per the Rod Elliott design. So this is Rod Elliott, that's Rod Elliott with the potentiometers, etc. But instead of having a balanced control followed by an improved volume control, where the volume pot is part of a closed loop with a op amp, I've just put a buffer just to make things even more complicated. So as mentioned, I've got to wire that in there, but how do I wire it in there? Forgive the messiness of this. I just, on bits of scraps of paper, I write down my ideas to try and think things through. So I had it before. The input went into the volume control, into the tone control, and then that went into the amp. Now then, if you look at most sort of valve amplifiers with tone controls, what usually happens is you get the input may or may not go into a volume control before the first gain stage, valve gain stage. Then you get the tone control, and then your phase splitter, and then the power amplifier. I discounted that because it's going to get messy with all the gain structure. So eventually I hit on the idea of, you've got the input, goes into the tone control, then into the volume pot, and then into the amplifier proper. We'll try that. Another thing I got wrong, like a lot of people, I don't read the full article. I just sort of wing it and get what bits of information I want, and then off I go and probably do it all wrong. But after reading the actual article in more detail, i.e. more, reading it properly and fully, Rod Elliott says in his design that there's a switch where you can switch the tone controls out. However, he does mention with the tone controls, the bass and the treble pot centered, there will still be a bit of boost, low frequency boost. And so that is what I noticed when I was testing it. So I'm gonna, instead of putting the sort of tone cut switch where it should be, I'm looking at putting a switch like so I can just switch the input from here to here. But obviously there's a right way and a wrong way to do that, because there'll be DC in various parts of the circuit, and we've got to watch that getting into the amplifier proper. So I'm going to go away and have a look at that and then start to wire it in. That's all the wiring removed off the potentiometers that form the tone control and volume pots. And then I thought, right, well, while I'm at it, I'm going to sort this heater wiring out here. So I just need to I found some bolts that fit in this bit of angle iron that I've reused. Just going to make up like a couple of retaining, I don't know, things. So just got some offcuts of 0.75mm alley. I used an old pair of scissors to just cut it to size roughly, just cutting the corners off there, and then I'll walk about with the file for a few minutes. No need for a vise or anything, you can do all this by hand. Oops. Right, that's all cushy. Just get rid of those burrs roughly with this rough file. Now I need to make a hole and then just sort of bend it, and that's easily done with pliers and all the rest of it. Right, let me go and measure it up. So I've been sort of eyeballed it, measured it a little bit. Going to get 2 out of this, and without making them too complicated, like say by putting a step in and all that, I'm just going to basically have 2 pieces like that, one there, sorry, a hole there, to transfer holes without, you know, so I don't have to measure it again. There's a very simple trick you can use. You just use your thumb like as a sort of stop, and then I've already measured it here. See what I'm doing? And then I just transfer that over to there. And the same with like the middle. I measured it this time, so I'll do that. And I know this is 1/2 inch, so this should be 1/4 of an inch. Let's just check that to see how accurate it is. And there you go. You can see, like, by using that simple method, you can transfer measurements over easily without, you know, doing it all again. And I'm just going to put a, oops, sorry, the camera tripod went walkabout. Yeah, just pop a, where do you call it? It's not a centre punch, you know, just mark it so the drill can find a way in. When I've drilled it, I shall obviously cut it with the scissors, use the files again and all that, and then I shall just sort of clean it up a bit. It's still got the plastic backing on it. I'll leave that on there as a, you know, form of insulation. It don't really need it. And then what I shall do, I'll just use some fine wet and dry just to sort of clean the surface up a bit, pretty them up. Right, there we go. I've just pinned over the end so it sort of captures the heater wiring, and that'll keep that section of heater wiring right in the corner of the chassis where it wants to be, right out the way. Job done. Well, that took a little bit longer than anticipated because the first bolts that I tried were BA types, but association thread were wrong, and then I figured out like that they were 4mm. So I found a couple of old screws. I collect screws, you know, from old computers and things like that, and they work just a treat. So that's that all tidied up. Gonna now sort out this bit here. I want to get all this sorted so that when I put the tone control board in, that because it's going to stick out further than what it did before, although that's not the case over here, then it's going to cover and make inaccessible things like that, for instance. I've managed by very careful measurement and managed to get it pretty bang on first time to put another standoff through the board. I mean, I haven't got the screws really tightened in at the moment, but that will make it more secure than just the one there. Yes, I could put more in, but the space is very tight and I don't want to start drilling loads of holes. Usually when I drill a hole like in this situation, because remember I've got all these to try and get past and everything with a ruler and all the rest of it, I usually am off by a few mil and have to sort of bosh the whole bit. In this case I'm rather chuffed with myself. Managed to get it right first time, so that's good. Right, onwards. Right, just to finish this video off, this segment of it anyway, got the heat wiring in, blah blah blah, got the board just held in with one screw on the standoff there. I've wired up the left hand side, or the left hand channel as it were, only one channel, and I'm gonna test it, and we're gonna have a look at the oscilloscope. Let's just change the whatnot there. So that's a 100 Hertz sine wave, and that is showing the output of the tone control board. Now how I've got it wired at the moment, I'm just switching out the tone control board. And as you can probably not see anywhere, you can see there, look, we've got really high frequency parasitic oscillation. Let me just switch that out, turn the time base back down, sensitivity of the, right, why is that? This is a simplified version of the tone control board. Input, output, switch. So you understand where I was trying to come from. Obviously its implementation is obviously crap. We've got the input going in, and so the idea is to switch that switch, you know, bypass this tone control board, but you can see the obvious screw up straight away, because if I throw this switch here, then the output is being fed back to the input, round and round and round. We have a closed loop feedback, and obviously it's positive feedback, so it oscillates. This method of bypassing is obviously crap. Yeah, forgive the crudity of the drawing, and obviously it's not very, I've drawn it wrong. So thing to do would be use a double pole single throw switch, or this is one solution should I say. So at the same time that we bypass the tone control board, that should be shown closed, sorry, there we go. So at the same time that we bypass the tone control board, we cut the input to the tone control board at the same time. If that makes sense, I hope it does. So instead of just going bluff and creating a closed loop, we create an open loop as far as the tone control board is concerned, with a closed sort of situation connection from the RCA input to the amp. That's one way of doing it. I'm sure there are better ways, but that's all I can come up with at about 6 o'clock on a Friday evening. Thank you very much all of you for watching. Hope it's been mildly entertaining and you're all keeping warm if you're in England. Take care of yourselves. Ta-da for now.